My name is Grace, and I never imagined that the child I raised with my own hands would one day bring me pain so sharp that I could not sleep at night. I am 62 years old, a widow, and for many years I lived quietly in my small house, surviving on little but grateful for life. My only joy was my son, Daniel. I worked myself to the bone so he could go to school, have a future, and never feel the hunger and humiliation I once knew. But life is a cruel teacher. The day Daniel told me he was getting married, my heart leapt with joy. I imagined being there dressed in my best wrapper, dancing for him, blessing his wife, and watching my son step into a new chapter. I did not know that my joy was about to turn into bitter tears. Daniel brought the girl home. Her name was Stella. She was young, beautiful, and well-dressed, the type of woman who could turn heads when she walked into a room. At first, I smiled, thankful that God had given my son someone to love. But the way Stella looked at me told me something was wrong. Her eyes scanned me like I was dirt under her shoes. Still, I kept silent, hoping love would cover her pride. One evening, I overheard her whispering to Daniel in the parlour. "Your mother. She looks like a villager. You must tell her not to embarrass us at the wedding. My friends are coming, and I don't want anyone asking if she is really related to us. She's too ugly, Daniel, too poor-looking. Please." Her words cut me like a sharp knife. My legs shook where I stood. Ugly? Poor-looking? I had carried her fiancé in my womb for 9 months. I had sold vegetables in the hot sun so he could have food. I had bent my back to pay his school fees even when my body begged for rest. And now, the woman he loved was calling me unworthy. The next day, Stella came to me directly. She smiled sweetly at Daniel, then turned her face to me with coldness. "Mama," she said, "about the wedding. It is better if you don't come. You will not understand the kind of people that will be there. I don't want any disgrace. Stay at home. We will send you food after." I stared at her, my lips trembling, my throat tight. For a moment I thought Daniel would speak up for me, but he stayed silent, looking away. His silence broke me more than Stella's words. That night I cried until my pillow was wet. My late husband's photo hung on the wall, and I looked at it with shaking hands. "Do you see what your son has become? Do you see how I am being thrown aside like trash?" The wedding day came. I dressed myself quietly in the blue wrapper my husband bought for me many years ago, the one I had saved for special occasions. But as I reached for the door, Stella's words replayed in my head. "Too ugly. Don't embarrass us." I sat back down. My chest ached. I could not move. The whole neighborhood was filled with music, laughter, and car horns. They had gone without me. I sat alone in my house, staring at the empty plates, the quiet room. Tears poured down my cheeks as I rocked myself like a child. I felt abandoned, useless, invisible. But as the hours passed, something inside me began to stir. A voice whispered in my heart, "Grace, are you going to sit here and let them erase you? Are you going to let them bury your dignity alive?" I stood up, wiped my tears, and looked at myself in the mirror. My face was wrinkled, yes, but those wrinkles told stories of sacrifice. My clothes were old, but they carried honor. I was not ugly. I was a mother, a warrior who had raised a son from nothing. And so I made a decision. I wrapped my head with my best scarf, took my walking stick, and began the journey to the wedding. People on the street stared, some smiled, some looked confused. I did not care. My heart beat fast, but my steps grew stronger with every move. By the time I reached the hall, the ceremony had already started. I could hear the laughter inside, the music, the clapping. For a moment, fear gripped me. Stella's mocking words echoed again. "Stay at home. Don't embarrass us." But then, I lifted my head high. My tears dried on my face. With trembling hands, I pushed open the doors. The hall went silent. Every eye turned to me. The bride and groom froze. Stella's smile vanished, replaced by shock. Daniel's face paled. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I stood there, framed by the doorway, my head held high, my scarf shining under the lights. And in that silence, one truth became clear. What I did next would change everything. The hall was filled with expensive decorations, chandeliers glittering like stars, roses hanging from every corner, and guests dressed in bright colours. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Every single eye was fixed on me. The air grew heavy, as if the music itself had lost its breath. I stood by the door, my headscarf tied with pride, my old wrapper wrapped firmly around my waist. My walking stick tapped lightly against the tiled floor. I could feel the stares, some full of pity, some full of surprise, and some full of judgment. Stella was the first to break the silence. She forced out a laugh, the kind that cut deeper than words. "Oh, Daniel, look! Your mother has come," she said mockingly, her voice sharp enough for everyone to hear. "Didn't I say this would happen? She couldn't resist embarrassing us," the guests whispered. Some shook their heads, others covered their mouths. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. My heart wanted to collapse inside my chest, but something stronger held me up. I lifted my chin and walked slowly down the aisle, each step echoing loudly, drowning the whispers. Daniel stood at the altar, frozen like a statue. His eyes darted between me and Stella. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. My son, the boy I had carried, the man I had raised, looked helpless. I stopped halfway, turned and looked at the crowd. My voice shook, but I spoke clearly. "I am Grace. I am Daniel's mother. I came to bless my son on his wedding day. If my presence is shameful, then let the shame fall on me, not on him." The room was silent again. A few older women in the crowd nodded quietly, their eyes wet. One of them whispered, "She is a mother. Leave her alone." But Stella's face twisted with anger. She marched toward me, her heels clicking like drums of war. She leaned close, her perfume sharp and suffocating. "I told you not to come," she hissed, her smile fake as the cameras flashed around us. "Why can't you respect yourself? Why must you bring your village face here?" Her words stabbed me again, but I did not move. Instead, I lifted my eyes to hers and whispered, "One day, Stella, one day you will remember these words, and you will cry harder than I have ever cried." Gasps filled the hall. The crowd stirred. Stella's face darkened and she turned back to Daniel. "Say something," she demanded. "Tell her to leave. Now." All eyes turned to my son. The groom. The man in the middle of this storm. Daniel's lips trembled. He wiped sweat from his forehead. He looked at Stella, then at me. For a moment, I saw the little boy I once held when he was sick, when he cried for comfort. But that boy was gone. In his place stood a man trapped by pride and fear. "Mama," Daniel's voice cracked. "Please, you should go home. We'll talk later. Please, don't spoil this day." My knees went weak. My vision blurred. My son had chosen her words over my heart. My whole body shook as I clutched my stick for balance. Some women in the crowd gasped. One shouted, "Daniel! You reject your own mother? On your wedding day?" Another murmured, "What kind of bride forbids her husband's mother?" Stella smiled victoriously. She turned back to the crowd and raised her chin, pretending to be calm. But I saw it. The pride, the cruelty dancing in her eyes. I wanted to collapse. I wanted to run. But then something inside me refused. I straightened my back. My tears dried. My voice rose louder than before. "I raised you, Daniel," I said, my words shaking the air. "I gave you life. I suffered for you. If today you choose to shame me, then let the whole world witness it. Let heaven itself be a witness." Gasps echoed again. Cameras clicked. Phones recorded. Stella's smile faltered. The hall was no longer hers to control. Suddenly the lights flickered. The microphones squealed. The master of ceremonies rushed forward to calm the tension, but the damage was done. The wedding was no longer about celebration. It had turned into a battlefield of truth. Daniel covered his face with his hands. "Please, Mama, not here," he whispered, broken, but his words were too late. Because just then, something happened that no one expected. The door at the back of the hall swung open. A tall man dressed in black stepped inside. His face was partly hidden by the shadows, but his voice was firm, commanding. "Grace," he called, his deep tone carrying through the hall. "Come with me. You don't belong in this humiliation." Every head turned. Whispers flew across the room. "Who is he? Do you know him?" I froze. My heart pounded. I did not know this man. But there was something about him, something strange, something powerful that made even Stella take a step back. He walked closer, his eyes locked on mine, and said words that chilled the entire hall. "Your son may have rejected you, but heaven has not. Today the truth will be revealed." The crowd erupted. Daniel's face drained of colour. Stella's hand trembled. And I, broken, humiliated, yet burning with a new fire, realised that my story was only just beginning. The man in black stood at the centre of the wedding hall like he had come out of a hidden chapter of my life. His voice carried authority, and yet it had sorrow in it. People whispered louder now, some even stood from their chairs to see his face more clearly. Stella grabbed Daniel's arm. "Who is that? Why is he calling your mother by name? Daniel, what is going on?" But Daniel looked just as confused as everyone else. His lips parted, his eyes darted from me to the man. The man stopped right in front of me. He bowed his head slightly, as if in respect, then turned to the crowd. His words were slow, heavy, each one dropping like a stone into water. "You all see a poor woman today. You see her clothes, her wrinkles, her tears. But what you do not know is this. Grace once saved my life. Years ago, when I was nothing but a wounded stranger, she gave me food, she gave me shelter, and she prayed for me. Without her, I would not be standing here." The crowd gasped. Some clapped. Stella's face twisted. "And so? What does that have to do with us? This is my wedding, not a charity story." The man turned to her with eyes so cold that Stella took a step back. "You laugh at her now," he said firmly, "but you laugh at your own destiny. For what you do to her today will return to you 100-fold. The silence in the hall deepened. Guests shifted in their seats, some whispering prayers under their breath. I stood frozen, my heart pounding. "Sir," I whispered, "who are you?" His eyes softened when he looked at me. "I owe you more than my name, Mama Grace," he said, "but I will tell you this. God never forgets tears. The tears you cried alone in your room last night have already reached heaven." At those words, my knees shook. Tears poured down my face again, but this time they were mixed with something strange. Strength. The crowd murmured louder, some saying, "Amen," others clapping. Daniel ran his hand through his hair, overwhelmed. "Please," he muttered, "please let us not do this here. This is my wedding day." But it was too late. The man in black had awakened something in that hall that no one could control. And then came the twist. From the back of the hall, a woman's voice cried out, "Grace, Grace!" Everyone turned. An older woman dressed in white lace hurried in. She was panting, her hair untidy as if she had rushed from a far distance. My eyes widened. I knew her. My late husband's sister. My in-law, whom I had not seen in 15 years. She pointed straight at Stella. "This girl," she shouted, "this girl is not who you think she is." The whole hall erupted. Guests gasped, chairs moved, cameras turned. Stella froze, her face pale. "What nonsense is this?" Stella screamed, her voice breaking. "Who even are you?" The woman in white lace marched forward, her eyes blazing. She turned to the crowd. "I know her family. Her father once worked for mine. She is already married in another town. She left her husband and came here to deceive a new man." The hall went wild. Shouts, screams, phones recording. Daniel staggered backward, his face drained of blood. "What?" he cried. Stella, is this true? No, Stella screamed. Her hands shook, her makeup smeared as she tried to grab his arm. They are lying. They are jealous of me. Don't listen. But the man in black stepped closer, his voice low but sharp. The truth always shows its face at the right time. Grace, your shame has turned into honor today. What they tried to hide has been exposed. I covered my mouth, trembling. My heart was torn between sorrow and relief. Was this God's justice? Was this the answer to my prayers? Daniel's chest heaved as he looked from me to Stella, to the crowd. You told me my mother was too poor, too ugly, too simple to stand beside us, he said, his voice breaking. But look at you, Stella. You are the liar, the deceiver. Stella screamed, tears streaking her face. No, Daniel, please, I love you. I did it because I wanted a better life. You don't understand. But Daniel ripped his hand away from her grip. His eyes burned with fury and pain. The guests roared. Some shouted, "Send her out!" Others said, "What a shame!" Cameras flashed non-stop, capturing Stella's disgrace. I stood in the middle, my tears flowing freely, my heart torn open. This was not how I wanted my son's wedding to go. I wanted joy, not ruin. Yet here it was, pain, shame, truth, and justice colliding all at once. And just when I thought it could not get worse, Stella's voice pierced the hall one last time. She turned to me, her face twisted with hatred. "This is your fault," she screamed, pointing at me with shaking hands. "You witch! If you had stayed in your miserable house, none of this would have happened. I swear, you will regret this day." The hall fell into dead silence. Her words were venom, and I felt them pierce my heart. But before I could respond, the man in black stepped between us. His shadow fell over her, his voice like thunder. "No, Stella," he said. "It is you who will regret it, for you have mocked a mother, and heaven does not forgive that easily." And with those words, Stella collapsed to the floor. The hall screamed in shock. Guests jumped from their seats. Daniel fell to his knees. I froze, my walking stick trembling in my hands. Was she fainting from shame? Or was it something far more dangerous? The hall was still in chaos after Stella collapsed on the floor. Guests rushed forward, some fanning her, some trying to lift her, others murmuring in shock. But even as she lay there, my heart felt heavy, not with triumph, but with sadness. I had not come here to disgrace her. I had not come to ruin her day. I only wanted to bless my son. Yet here we were, her lying on the floor, Daniel shaking like a leaf, and me standing with tears rolling down my cheeks. The pastor rushed forward, trying to calm the crowd. "Let us be quiet, please. This is a holy gathering. Let us pray for the bride." Daniel knelt beside Stella, holding her hand. "Stella, wake up," he whispered desperately. "Please, don't do this to me." His voice was trembling, his eyes wet. For the first time that day, I saw not anger in him, but fear. Fear of losing her, fear of shame. Slowly, Stella opened her eyes. She blinked, weak and embarrassed, but her first words stabbed me like a knife. "Why is she still here?" she muttered, pointing at me with her trembling hand. "Daniel, I told you I don't want her here." The hall went silent again. Guests exchanged shocked glances. Some whispered, "Even after fainting, she still has no respect?" Daniel looked torn apart, caught between his mother and his bride. He lowered his head and whispered, "Mama, maybe it's better if you go. Please, just this once." My chest tightened. My breath caught. Those words, "better if you go," echoed in my head like a curse. My son had chosen again, not me, not the woman who carried him through hunger and pain, but the woman who spat on me, mocked me, and told me I was too ugly for her wedding. My lips trembled. I gripped my walking stick tightly to stop myself from collapsing. My voice cracked, but I spoke. "Daniel, I gave you life. I stood by you when no one else did. But if this is your choice..." I swallowed hard as tears blinded me. "Then today, I give you to her completely." Gasps filled the room. A woman near the front covered her face and cried. An elderly man shook his head, muttering, "What kind of son forgets his mother?" But Daniel kept his eyes on the floor. He could not even look at me. I turned to leave. Each step felt like a stone tied to my feet, dragging me down. The guests parted, some touching my arm, whispering, "Sorry, Mama, sorry." Others stood in stunned silence. At the door, I stopped. My back was to them, but my voice was strong. "Today you laugh at me because I am old, because I am not beautiful, because I am poor. But remember this. One day beauty fades, riches vanish, pride falls, and when that day comes, you will understand the value of a mother's blessing." My words hung in the air like fire. I pushed the door and stepped outside. The sun was blazing hot, but I felt cold inside. My eyes blurred as I walked down the road, my tears falling freely. People outside the hall stared at me, some curious, some sympathetic, but I didn't care. My heart was broken. Back at my small house, I collapsed onto my bed. My chest rose and fell heavily. I pressed my face into my pillow and sobbed like a child. I cried for the years I had sacrificed, for the boy who had once clung to me, for the son who now threw me aside like an old rag. Night fell, but my tears did not stop. I had no appetite, no strength. My heart felt like it had been ripped into pieces. Days passed. No word from Daniel, no visit, no call. My house was silent, only the sound of my breathing and the clock ticking. Neighbours came to check on me, bringing food, shaking their heads in pity. "Grace," they said, "you are a strong woman. Don't let this kill you." But each time they left, I sank back into loneliness. My son had cut me out of his life. One evening, as I sat outside under the fading sky, I saw a group of children playing. They laughed, ran, and called out to their mothers. That simple sight made fresh tears pour from my eyes. I whispered, "God, why did you give me a son if he would one day shame me like this?" And then came the twist that would change everything. A car pulled up in front of my house. It was shiny, expensive. The door opened and out stepped Stella. I froze, my mouth hanging open. My heart pounded. Why was she here? She walked slowly toward me, her heels clicking against the ground. Her makeup was smudged, her face pale. She stood before me, her eyes red with tears. "Mama," she whispered, her voice trembling. I am sorry." I stared at her, stunned. The same woman who had laughed at me, mocked me, and thrown me out of her wedding was now standing in front of me with tears in her eyes. "Sorry," I asked bitterly. "Do you know how many nights I cried because of you? Do you know how it feels to be rejected by your only son because of the woman he loves?" Stella broke down, kneeling on the ground. Her tears soaked the soil. "Mama, please, I beg you, forgive me. I didn't understand. I thought your presence would shame me, but instead, my pride shamed me before the whole world." She covered her face, sobbing. "Mama, I cannot sleep, I cannot eat. Your words are haunting me." I watched her cry, my own tears rising again. For the first time, I saw not a proud bride, but a broken young woman. My chest rose heavily. My heart warred between anger and compassion. And then, just as I opened my mouth to answer, another car stopped. This time it was Daniel. He stepped out, his face drawn, his eyes red. He looked at me with a mixture of shame and longing. Slowly he walked forward, his lips trembling. "Mama," he whispered, "if you never forgive me, I will understand. But please, please, don't turn me away. I cannot live with the choice I made." I froze, torn between love and pain. My son, my only son, was kneeling before me next to his wife. Both of them begging, both of them broken. And I, still carrying the scars of rejection, had to decide whether to open my arms or turn away. Daniel knelt in front of me, his suit dusty from the ground. Beside him, Stella sobbed uncontrollably, her makeup streaking down her cheeks. For a moment, time froze. The same people who had wounded me so deeply were now at my feet, begging. But my heart was not quick to forgive. I looked at them, my chest rising and falling, my throat tight with unshed tears. "Do you know," I began, my voice trembling, "that the pain of a mother is heavier than a mountain? Do you know what it feels like to watch your only son choose shame over love, pride over blood? You threw me away like I was nothing." Daniel's lips trembled. He grabbed my hand with shaking fingers. "Mama, I was blind. I let love cover my eyes. I thought making her happy was more important than honoring you. But since that day, my heart has not known peace. Mama, I cannot eat. I cannot sleep. Your tears are haunting me." Stella cried harder, her hands clasped together. "Mama, please, I am begging you. I thought beauty and status were everything, but I was wrong. That day when you walked out of the hall, I felt something snap in me. It was as if God himself had turned his face from me." Her words cut through my anger. For the first time I saw her broken. Not proud, not arrogant, but truly broken. Yet, the wound in my heart was still raw. I turned my face away, tears streaming. "I suffered for you, Daniel. When your father died, I sold firewood. I washed people's clothes. I begged in markets just so you could go to school. I starved so you could eat. And that day, you stood before strangers and told me to go home." Daniel broke down completely, burying his face in my lap. His shoulders shook as he wept. "Mama, if I could take back that moment, I would. Please don't throw me away. Please don't curse me. Please, I need your blessing." Silence fell. The air was heavy with their tears and mine. My neighbours had gathered at a distance, watching the scene unfold. Some whispered prayers, some wiped their eyes. Slowly, I lifted my trembling hand and placed it on my son's head. My lips quivered as I whispered, "May God forgive you. May God forgive both of you." I released the pain from my heart. A loud cry escaped Stella's lips. She clung to my knees, her tears soaking my wrapper. Daniel clutched my hand tightly, his face wet with tears. But just as I thought peace had finally come, a sharp twist awaited me. From the gate, a man's voice shouted, "Daniel! So this is where you are?" We all turned. A tall young man in simple clothes stormed in. His eyes were bloodshot, his face tight with rage. He looked straight at Stella, pointing a shaking finger. "You thought you could run from me, Stella?" he shouted. "You left me with shame and debts, and now you kneel before another man's mother? Do you think the truth will stay buried forever?" The world stopped spinning. My stomach dropped. My ears rang. Daniel rose to his feet, confused and trembling. "What is this? Stella, who is he?" Stella's face turned pale as snow. She gasped, her lips trembling, unable to speak. The neighbours gasped loudly, some covering their mouths, some shaking their heads in disbelief. The man moved closer, his voice breaking with anger. "Tell him, Stella. Tell him how you left me in another town, how you promised me marriage, how you walked out with my money. Tell him before I expose everything right here." Daniel's hands trembled. His eyes turned red with fury as he looked at Stella. "Is this true?" His voice was low, dangerous, like a storm waiting to break. Stella's knees buckled. She grabbed Daniel's hands, crying hysterically. "Daniel, please! I was young, I was desperate. I didn't know what I was doing. Yes, I made mistakes, but I love you. I only want you. Please don't leave me. Please!" But Daniel pulled his hands away violently, his face twisted in pain and betrayal. "You told me my mother would shame us, but all this time you were the shame. You mocked her, rejected her, and yet you are the liar." The crowd outside gasped louder. Some muttered, "God is truly alive." Others said, "What goes around comes around." My chest ached watching it all. Part of me wanted to shout, part of me wanted to faint. My son's life, his marriage, his heart, it was all crumbling before my eyes. Daniel turned to me, his eyes full of pain. "Mama, What do I do? My whole world is falling apart. I opened my mouth to answer, but my voice failed me. Tears choked me, because at that very moment Stella collapsed again, this time not from shame, but from something darker. She clutched her stomach, screaming in pain. The neighbors screamed. Daniel rushed to her side, panic on his face. Stella! Stella, what is happening? Her eyes rolled back as she groaned. The baby. Daniel. The baby. The world went silent. Daniel froze, his face pale. Baby. What baby? My heart skipped a beat. The neighbors gasped louder than ever. And in that moment I realized this story had only just begun. The words hung in the air like thunder. The baby. Daniel. The baby. The crowd outside my compound froze. Daniel's hands shook as he held Stella's shoulders, his face pale with shock. Baby, he whispered, his voice trembling. You are pregnant? Stella's lips quivered, tears streaming down her face as she nodded weakly. Yes, Daniel. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. Daniel's chest rose and fell violently, his whole body shook. You mean, after all this humiliation, after everything, you are carrying my child? But then, like a dagger to the chest, the tall young man who had stormed into the compound earlier stepped forward. His eyes burned with rage. Daniel, don't let her deceive you. That baby may not be yours. Gasps erupted from the neighbors watching. Some covered their mouths, others cried out in disbelief. Daniel turned sharply, his face twisted in confusion. What are you saying? The man pointed at Stella, his voice breaking. She was with me before she left. She told me she loved me. She took my money, my trust, my future, and now she stands here, pretending this child is yours. The ground beneath me felt like it was shifting. My walking stick nearly slipped from my hands. My son's world was crumbling before his eyes, and my heart bled watching him drown in pain. Stella fell to her knees, grabbing Daniel's leg, crying hysterically. No, Daniel, don't listen to him. It's your child. I swear. I was foolish before, yes, but this baby is yours. Please believe me, please. Daniel shook violently, his hands pulling at his hair. He looked at me, his mother, as though searching for an anchor in the storm. Mama, what do I do? Who do I believe? I could not speak. My lips trembled. Tears poured down my cheeks as I whispered, Daniel, the truth always finds its way. But no matter what, don't lose yourself. The neighbors began to murmur louder, some shouting, This girl is a disgrace. Others whispering, What if the child is not his? Daniel turned on the man angrily. If you are lying, I swear. But the man raised his hands. I am not lying. She knows the truth. Ask her. Look into her eyes, Daniel. You will see it yourself. Daniel looked at Stella, his eyes red with fury. Tell me the truth. Now, whose child are you carrying? Stella sobbed, her hands shaking. It's yours. Daniel, it's yours. Please don't doubt me. Please don't leave me. But her eyes betrayed her. She could not hold his gaze. Daniel staggered backward as though stabbed in the heart. He shouted in pain, a raw, broken sound that tore through the night. Why, Stella, why did you do this to me? He collapsed to his knees, clutching his chest, his tears pouring like rain. I rushed to his side, holding him as he shook. My son, I whispered, my own heart breaking. My son. Stella crawled toward us, her face soaked in tears, her body trembling. Daniel, please, don't leave me. Even if I made mistakes, even if the past is ugly, this child needs you. I need you. The man stepped forward again, his face hard. No, Daniel. Don't let her drag you down. She ruined my life. Don't let her ruin yours. The crowd outside was in chaos now, some shouting at Stella, others cursing her, some pitying Daniel, and some looking at me with sadness. My house, once quiet, had become a battlefield of tears and accusations. Daniel turned to me, his eyes swollen with grief. Mama, I don't know what to do. If I reject her and the baby is mine, I will be a monster. If I accept her and the baby is not mine, I will be a fool. My heart split in two. I held his face in my hands, my tears falling on his cheeks. Daniel, listen to me. Whatever happens, don't lose your dignity. Don't let anger destroy you. Let the truth come out in time. But even as I spoke, Stella let out another piercing scream. She clutched her stomach, her whole body convulsing. Daniel, Mama, help me, the baby. Panic erupted. Neighbours screamed, some rushing to her side. She needs a hospital, someone shouted. Quick, get a car. Daniel scooped her into his arms, his tears mixing with sweat. Hold on, Stella, hold on, don't leave me. I followed behind as he carried her to the waiting car. My legs shook, my heart pounding, my prayers tumbling from my lips. God, have mercy. Please save the child. Save my son from more pain. The car sped off into the night, leaving the crowd in shock. Some whispered that it was judgment. Others prayed for mercy. But my heart was torn open, bleeding with fear. At the hospital, doctors rushed Stella into the emergency room. Daniel paced the hallway like a madman, his hands trembling, his eyes red and swollen. I sat quietly on the bench, my walking stick in my hand, my lips whispering prayers without end. Minutes turned into hours. The door finally opened. A doctor stepped out, his face grave. Daniel rushed forward. Doctor, how is my wife? How is the baby? The doctor sighed heavily. His words were slow, heavy. She is stable now. But the baby? We are not sure if it will survive. Daniel's knees buckled. He collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. My own tears spilled as I covered my face. But then the doctor added words that froze us both. We also discovered something else during the tests. Something your family needs to know. Daniel's head shot up. What? What is it? The doctor hesitated, then looked straight at me before speaking. This child is not more than 2 months old. Daniel froze. His mouth fell open. His eyes widened with shock. Slowly his head turned towards Stella's hospital door. Because he knew. Their marriage was less than 1 month old. Daniel's face turned white when the doctor's words sank into his ears. The baby is at least 2 months old. He staggered back as though struck by lightning. His hands trembled, his lips parted, but no words came out. His breathing grew heavy, uneven, like a man standing on the edge of collapse. I rushed to hold his arm before he fell. My son, I whispered, my own body weak with shock. Steady yourself. Don't let this destroy you. But Daniel shook his head violently. His eyes burned with tears as he muttered, Mama. How? How can this be? We married less than a month ago. If the baby is 2 months, then... His voice broke into a sob. It means she betrayed me. It means I've been living in a lie. The doctor cleared his throat gently. She is resting now, but she will need emotional support. Please, whatever happens, keep her calm. With that, he walked away, leaving us with a storm too heavy to carry. Daniel's hands clutched his head. He began to pace up and down the hospital corridor, his shoes echoing against the tiles. Mama, what do I do? What do I say to her? My whole life is breaking apart before my eyes. My heart ached watching him. I remembered his childhood, when he fell sick, when he cried after losing a football match, when he clung to me after his father's death. But this pain was deeper than anything I had ever seen. He looked like a man drowning, grasping for air. I wiped my tears and held his face in my hands. My son, you must confront the truth, but do it with dignity. Do not shout. Do not curse. Let her speak. Let her confess with her own lips. Daniel nodded weakly, though his whole body shook. After a long pause, he whispered, Mama, come with me. I can't face her alone. We entered the hospital room. Stella lay on the bed, her face pale, her hair scattered, her eyes swollen from crying. She turned when she heard the door, and when she saw Daniel, her lips trembled. Daniel, she whispered, her voice breaking. You came back. Daniel stood stiffly, his jaw tight, his eyes burned with silent fire. He walked slowly toward her bed, each step heavy. I stood by the corner, my heart racing, praying silently for strength. He stopped at her bedside and spoke in a low, trembling voice. Stella. The doctor said the baby is 2 months old. We have only been married for less than 1. Tell me the truth. Whose child are you carrying? The air froze. Stella's chest rose and fell quickly. She gripped the bedsheet with trembling hands. Tears filled her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. Daniel, she whispered, please, please forgive me. I didn't plan for this. I didn't know how to tell you. I was afraid I would lose you. I thought if I kept silent, time would cover it. Daniel's lips parted in disbelief. So it's true? The child is not mine? Stella broke into sobs. Daniel, please. I made a mistake before I met you. I thought my past would not follow me. I thought if I started a new life with you, I could bury everything. But when I discovered I was pregnant, I panicked. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose everything we had. Daniel staggered back, clutching his chest, his face twisted in pain. You lied to me. You mocked my mother, told her she was too poor, too ugly. Yet you are the one carrying another man's child? His voice rose, breaking into raw agony. Stella, you destroyed me. Stella wept louder, reaching for his hand. No, please, don't leave me. I love you. Even if the child is not yours, you are the man I want. Please, Daniel, don't abandon me. Daniel ripped his hand away, shaking with fury. Love? You call this love? You turned me against my own mother. You made me shame her in public, and now I find out you carried another man's blood into my home. I could no longer stay silent. My tears poured as I stepped forward. Stella, you broke my son. You broke me too. Do you know the weight of what you have done? Stella fell to her knees on the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Mama, please. I beg you, forgive me. I have no one else. My parents disowned me years ago. Daniel is all I have. This baby is innocent. Don't let me face the world alone. My heart twisted painfully. On one side was my son, broken and betrayed. On the other was this young woman, desperate, clinging to life with trembling hands. My tears blurred my vision as I whispered, God, what test is this? Why must one mother's heart carry so much pain? Daniel turned to me, his voice trembling. Mama, tell me, do I walk away or do I stay and raise a child that is not mine? The question pierced my heart like a blade. All eyes turned to me. Stella weeping, Daniel broken. The weight of their future lay in my trembling hands. I closed my eyes, my lips shaking. Daniel, you must decide for yourself. But hear me. If you choose to walk away, walk with your head high. If you choose to stay, then stay with forgiveness. Do not punish the child for sins it did not commit. Daniel collapsed onto the chair, burying his face in his hands, crying like a wounded child. Stella crawled closer, clutching his knees, her voice desperate. Please, Daniel, choose me. Choose us, don't abandon me. The room filled with the sound of sobs. Nurses peeked in, shaken by the scene. Even strangers in the hallway paused to wipe their eyes. And then came the twist. The hospital door swung open. A woman entered. Elegant, wealthy-looking, her gold jewellery flashing under the light, her eyes locked on Stella with cold fury. Stella! She snapped, her voice sharp as glass. So this is where you've been hiding, with another man, carrying another man's child. The whole room froze. Daniel looked up in shock. I clutched my stick tightly. Stella gasped, her face turning white as she whispered, Mother. The elegant woman's lips curled with disgust. You are no daughter of mine. You disgraced this family once and now you dare again. Daniel, listen to me. Do not waste your life on her. She is nothing but shame. Daniel's eyes widened, his chest heaving. What are you saying? The woman folded her arms, her voice like ice. I am Stella's mother. and I will tell you the truth she never told you." The room spun. My heart pounded. Daniel trembled, torn between pain and rage. Stella buried her face in her hands, crying uncontrollably. And just like that, another storm had begun. The room was silent except for the beeping of the hospital machines and Stella's quiet sobs. Then the elegant woman's voice sliced through the air again. "You," she pointed at Daniel, her eyes sharp, "you deserve to know the kind of woman you almost gave your life to. Stella is my daughter, yes, but she has brought nothing but disgrace. She lied to you. She lied to all of us." Stella shook her head violently, her tears spilling. "Mama, please, don't do this here. Please, not in front of him." But the woman ignored her pleas. She turned fully to Daniel, her tone heavy with contempt. "This is not the first time, young man. She left home years ago chasing money and men. She broke one engagement, then another. She even ran away with a man who promised her wealth but abandoned her. When she came back, pregnant, we begged her to repent, but she refused. We cut her off, and now she has dragged you into her chaos." Daniel staggered back, his eyes wide, his chest rising violently. He turned to Stella, his voice breaking. "Is this true? Tell me it's not true. Please, tell me she is lying." Stella's whole body trembled. She reached out to him, sobbing. "Daniel, listen to me. Yes, I made mistakes in the past. Yes, I was foolish. But I changed when I met you. I loved you with everything in me. I thought if I buried my past, it would disappear. I was wrong. I was selfish. But Daniel," she grabbed his hand desperately, "you are my only hope. Please don't abandon me." Daniel ripped his hand away, his tears falling fast. He turned and slammed his fist against the wall. "God, why? Why me? Why did I have to meet her? Why did I disgrace my mother for a woman who hid all this from me?" My chest burned watching my son shatter. I walked slowly to him, placed my trembling hand on his shoulder and whispered, "My son, hold yourself. Don't let this break you completely. Pain can destroy, but it can also teach. You must choose wisely." But Daniel shook his head, his voice low and bitter. "Mama, I don't even know who I married anymore. I don't even know if I can look at her without feeling hatred." Stella let out a loud cry, falling to the floor despite her weak body. "Please, please, Daniel, don't talk like that. If you leave me now, I will die. If you abandon me, I have nothing left. Please, Daniel, please," the mother sneered. "Let her go, boy. She will only destroy you further." The tension was unbearable. The walls of that hospital room felt too tight to hold the weight of the truth. Daniel's voice finally cracked as he looked between Stella and her mother. "What do I do? If I leave her, the child grows up fatherless. If I stay, I may never trust her again. Mama, what do I do?" I swallowed hard, my own tears burning. "Daniel, marriage without truth is prison. But also remember, abandoning an innocent child is sin. You must pray, my son, but you must also protect your heart." The room fell into silence again. Everyone looked broken. Then came the twist no one expected. The hospital door opened slowly and a nurse walked in with a small brown envelope. She handed it to Daniel. "Sir," she said softly, "the test results you requested have arrived." Daniel's hands shook as he tore it open. His eyes scanned the paper. Slowly the colour drained from his face. His lips parted. His breath caught in his throat. "What is it?" I whispered. Daniel's voice cracked as he read aloud, "Paternity test result. Probability of paternity, 0%. The room exploded. Gasps filled the air. Stella screamed, clutching her stomach as if the ground had swallowed her soul. Daniel dropped the paper, falling to his knees, his face buried in his hands. "It's not mine. The child is not mine." My heart clenched so hard I thought I would collapse. I leaned heavily on my stick, my tears falling endlessly. The neighbours who had followed us to the hospital wailed loudly. Some cursed Stella, some pitied Daniel, Others shook their heads in sorrow. Stella crawled toward him, sobbing hysterically. Daniel, Daniel, please, don't do this. I know I was wrong. I know I lied. But please, I love you. Even if the child is not yours, I love you. Please don't abandon me. Daniel lifted his head slowly, his eyes blood red with pain. He stared at her for a long moment, then whispered hoarsely, Love built on lies is not love. Stella, you destroyed me. His words cut deeper than any sword. Stella wailed, throwing herself at his feet, but he pushed her away gently, his tears blinding him. I can't, he muttered, his voice hollow. I can't do this anymore. He stood up, staggering toward the door. Mama, he whispered, let's go. I can't breathe in here. My chest ached as I followed him, but Stella's cry pierced me one last time. Mama Grace, please don't let him leave me. Please talk to him. I froze at the door, torn apart inside. My heart screamed in pain. I looked back at her, a young woman broken, destroyed by her own choices, clutching her belly, begging for mercy. But my son was already walking away, his soul bleeding, and I knew. Whatever I said or did next would change everything. Daniel's footsteps echoed down the hospital hallway, heavy, broken, final. I followed behind him slowly, leaning on my stick, my eyes blurred with tears. But Stella's cry still tore through my chest. Mama Grace, please don't let him leave me. The sound of her voice was like a knife twisting inside me. I stopped in the doorway, torn apart. I turned back. Stella was still on the hospital floor, clutching her belly, her body shaking with sobs. Nurses tried to lift her back onto the bed, but she fought them, her eyes fixed on me. Mama, she wept, her voice raw. Please, I know I hurt you. I know I insulted you. I know I mocked you. But don't let him throw me away like trash. Don't let me face the world alone with this child. Mama, you are the only mother I have left. Her words burned into me. I remembered how she had once told me I was too ugly to attend her wedding, how she mocked my old wrapper and called me poor. But now she knelt before me, stripped of pride, begging for mercy. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to steady my heart. My lips trembled as I whispered, Stella, the wound you gave me is deep, but your tears are deeper still. If I walk away from you now, I am no better than the people who abandoned me when I had nothing. The nurses lifted her gently back onto the bed. Stella reached out to me again, her tears endless. Mama, please. Even if Daniel never forgives me, please don't abandon me. Please don't hate this child. I turned fully and walked back to her bedside. My tears fell onto her blanket. I touched her hand softly. Stella, I cannot erase what you did. But I will not let bitterness consume me. You are still someone's daughter, and whether or not Daniel accepts you, I will not leave you in this pain. She broke into uncontrollable sobs, holding my hand tightly. Mama, I don't deserve your kindness. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I wiped her tears with the edge of my scarf. Maybe you don't, but forgiveness is not about deserving. It is about healing. If I don't forgive you, my son's wound will never heal, and my heart will die with hate. Just then, Daniel reappeared at the doorway. His face was wet with tears, his shoulders trembling. He had heard everything. His eyes locked on me, full of confusion. Mama, why? Why are you showing her mercy after all she has done to us? His voice was broken, almost angry. I turned to him slowly, my own tears heavy. Because, my son, anger will destroy you. I have carried pain in my life, but I never allowed it to bury me. If you carry this hatred, it will bury you alive. You must rise above the betrayal, not sink beneath it. Daniel shook his head, his tears flowing freely. But Mama, how do I raise a child that is not mine? How do I look at her every day and not feel the knife again? My lips trembled. I am not asking you to stay if your heart cannot bear it, but I am asking you to release the bitterness. If you walk away, let it be with peace, not with hatred. If you stay, let it be with forgiveness, not with anger. The room was heavy with silence. Daniel buried his face in his hands. Stella clutched her stomach, her sobs quieter now but endless. I stood between them, broken, torn, yet firm. Then came the twist. A nurse rushed in with a file. "Sir, madam, there's something else. The hospital needs to speak with you urgently." We all looked up in confusion. The nurse continued carefully. "During the tests, we also discovered the baby is at high risk. We will need constant monitoring and special treatment. If she doesn't get it, both mother and child could be in danger." Stella gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Daniel froze, his face draining of colour. I nearly dropped my stick, my knees shaking. "Danger?" Daniel whispered hoarsely. "You mean they could die?" The nurse nodded sadly. "If she doesn't get proper care, yes." The words hit the room like thunder. Stella began to cry harder, holding her belly as though shielding the child. "No, no, not my baby. Please, God, not my baby." Daniel's chest heaved violently. His tears poured again, but now they were mixed with fear, not anger. He staggered forward to her bedside. He looked at her trembling form, then at her swollen eyes. "My whole world is broken," he whispered, his voice shaking. "But I cannot stand here and watch you and this baby die." Stella lifted her face slowly, her eyes wide with shock. "Daniel!" Daniel's lips trembled as tears fell. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet. I don't know if I can live with this wound. But I also know I can't let this child suffer. Innocent blood should not pay for sins it didn't commit." The room went still. My tears fell freely, soaking my scarf. My heart ached, but for the first time that night, I saw a spark of the boy I once raised, the boy who had a heart, even in his pain. Daniel gripped Stella's hand gently. "We will get the treatment. We will do everything we can to save you and the baby. But after that, Stella," his voice cracked, "I don't know if we can still be husband and wife." Stella sobbed loudly, clinging to his hand. "Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. Even if you never love me again, thank you for saving my child." I stepped forward, placing my hand over both of theirs. My voice shook, but it was firm. "Then let us walk this road together. Pain may have broken us, but compassion can still hold us. We will save this child, and after that, God will decide the rest." The three of us sat there in tears, bound by betrayal, grief, and a fragile thread of mercy. But deep in my heart, I knew the hardest days were still ahead. The night was long and heavy in the hospital. The doctor had explained that Stella would need close monitoring, injections, and even a possible surgery if her condition worsened. Her pregnancy was fragile, and one mistake could cost both her and the child's life. I sat quietly in the corner of her hospital room, praying silently. My scarf was damp from the tears I had shed, yet they did not stop. The image of my son kneeling at his wedding, ashamed of me, still burned in my chest. But here I was, watching over the same woman who had been the reason for my deepest humiliation. Daniel sat by Stella's bedside, his head bowed, his eyes empty. He hadn't spoken much since he agreed to help her. He looked like a man carrying a coffin inside his heart. Every now and then Stella would look at him with pleading eyes, but his face remained cold, unreadable. "Mama Grace." Stella's weak voice broke the silence. I lifted my head and she whispered, "Why are you still here? After everything I did to you, after the shame I poured on you, why haven't you turned your back on me?" I sighed deeply, my voice trembling. "Because, Stella, if I leave you now, I become the same monster you once accused me of being, and I will not let hate define me. You broke me, yes, but forgiveness is the only medicine left for my wound." Her tears spilled again. "I don't deserve you. I don't deserve him. I destroyed everything." Daniel's voice finally cut through the silence, low, heavy. "Yes, Stella. You destroyed us. You destroyed me. But right now, I don't care about your pride, your lies, or even our marriage. I only care about saving this child. Stella covered her face, sobbing loudly. I saw the truth in Daniel's eyes. He cared about the baby, but his heart was closed to her. Hours passed. Doctors came and went, checking her vitals. The night crept into morning, and the tension never left the room. By noon, the doctor entered again. His face was serious. We must act quickly. Her condition is worsening. She needs an urgent procedure. Without it, the pregnancy might be lost, and she herself will be at risk. Stella gasped, holding her belly tightly. No. No, please. Save my baby, don't let my child die. Daniel shot to his feet. Doctor, do everything, no matter the cost. Just save them. The doctor nodded. Then we will need consent from both husband and wife. There are risks involved. She may not survive the operation. Do you both accept this? Stella's body shook as tears poured down her face. I don't care what happens to me. Just save my child, please. Daniel's face twisted in pain. He looked at her, then at me. His lips trembled. Mama, what if I lose her during this operation? What if this is the end? I placed my trembling hand on his shoulder. My son, if you lose her, at least you will know you tried. If you do nothing, regret will bury you alive. He nodded slowly, signing the papers with shaking hands. The nurses wheeled Stella out toward the operating room. She reached out her hand weakly toward me. Mama Grace, pray for me. Pray for my baby. I squeezed her hand, whispering, God, give her one more chance. Let this child live. Let mercy speak louder than judgment. The doors closed. Silence fell. Daniel and I sat outside the theatre for hours. Every tick of the clock felt like a hammer pounding against my heart. Daniel paced endlessly, his hands trembling, his lips whispering desperate prayers. Finally, the doctor emerged. His eyes gave nothing away. Daniel rushed forward. Doctor, please, tell me. Did she make it? Did the baby make it? The doctor sighed. The procedure was successful. We managed to save both mother and child, but his voice grew quiet. The pregnancy will remain very fragile. One more complication could take both of them. Daniel broke down, sinking to his knees, tears flooding his face. Thank you, God. Thank you. I closed my eyes, whispering prayers of relief. Stella had been given a second chance. Later we entered her room. She was weak, pale but alive. Her hand rested gently on her stomach. When she saw us, her lips trembled and tears filled her eyes. Daniel, she whispered softly, you could have left me to die. You could have abandoned me after all the pain I caused. But you chose to save me. I will never forget this. Daniel looked at her with cold eyes. I saved you for the child's sake, not for you. Don't mistake my mercy for love. The wound you gave me may never heal. Stella sobbed quietly. I could feel her heart break, but I also knew my son's pain was too deep to vanish with words. As night fell again, I sat by the window staring at the dark sky. My heart was heavy. This was not the life I dreamed of for my son. This was not the marriage I had prayed for. And then came the twist. The hospital door opened slowly. A nurse stepped in nervously, holding another file. She looked at Daniel. Sir, I don't know how to say this, but there has been a mix-up. Another patient's results were mistakenly given to you earlier. Daniel froze. My stick nearly slipped from my hand. The nurse continued. We rechecked everything. The truth is, this baby is yours. The room exploded with silence. Daniel staggered back, his face pale with shock. Stella gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as tears streamed down. I covered my chest, my heart pounding like a drum. Daniel's lips trembled as he whispered, Mine? The child is mine? The nurse nodded firmly. Yes, the earlier result was wrong. This baby belongs to you. The walls seemed to spin. My son's tears burst again, but this time, not from pain but from disbelief. He turned to Stella, his face trembling between anger, relief, and confusion. And Stella, broken and weeping, whispered, "Daniel, do you believe me now?" The nurse's words still hung in the air. "This baby is yours." Daniel stood frozen, his hands trembling, his breath unsteady. His eyes darted from the nurse to Stella, then back again, as if his mind could not believe what his ears had heard. Mine? He whispered, his voice barely audible. "The baby is mine?" The nurse nodded firmly. "Yes. We checked the samples again. The earlier test belonged to another patient. We are sorry for the confusion. This baby belongs to you, sir." The room was silent, heavy with shock. Stella let out a cry, covering her face as tears poured down her cheeks. Her body shook with sobs, her words tumbling out. "Thank you, God. Thank you, Daniel. I told you the baby is yours. Please, believe me now." Daniel's legs weakened beneath him. He collapsed into the chair beside her bed, his face buried in his hands, his shoulders trembling with heavy sobs. For hours he had carried the weight of betrayal, shame, and loss. And now that weight shifted into confusion, relief, and fresh pain all at once. I stood by the window, gripping my walking stick tightly, my tears sliding down my wrinkled face. My heart swelled with gratitude, but also sorrow. Gratitude that my son's child was safe. Sorrow for the storm we had walked through to reach this truth. Daniel finally lifted his head, his eyes swollen with tears. He looked at Stella, his face torn between anger and relief. "Stella, why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning? Why did you let lies and fear ruin everything?" Stella reached for his hand, her lips trembling. "Because I was afraid. Afraid that my past would destroy me. Afraid that you would not love me if you knew the mistakes I made. So I hid. I lied. And in trying to protect my place beside you, I almost lost it forever." Daniel shook his head slowly, his tears falling again. "You almost destroyed me, Stella. You turned me against my mother, the one who gave me life. You let pride lead you, and I followed blindly. Do you know how much I have cried because of you?" Stella sobbed harder, holding his hand tightly. "I know, Daniel, I know, and I will spend the rest of my life making it right. If you never forgive me, I will understand. But please, don't close your heart to this child. Don't let my mistakes punish the baby." The room fell silent again. The only sound was the faint beep of the hospital monitor. Finally, Daniel turned to me. His eyes were desperate, like a child seeking direction. "Mama, what do I do? I still love her, but my heart is broken. Can we really start again?" I walked slowly to his side, leaning on my stick, my tears glistening in the light. I placed my trembling hand on his shoulder. "My son, love is not tested in the days of laughter. Love is tested in the days of tears. Marriage is not built on perfection. It is built on forgiveness. If you choose to stay, stay with open hands, not with bitterness. If you choose to leave, leave with peace, not with anger. But know this, love can heal if you let it." Daniel broke down, resting his head against my arm like he used to when he was a boy. "Mama, I don't want to live with hate anymore. I want to heal. I want to raise my child in peace." I stroked his hair gently, my tears soaking my scarf. "Then forgive, my son. Forgive not because she deserves it, but because your heart needs it." Daniel turned back to Stella. She was crying so hard her whole body shook. He reached for her hand slowly. She looked up at him with red, swollen eyes, hope flickering through her pain. "Stella," he whispered, his voice trembling, "I am not promising to forget, but I am choosing to forgive for the sake of our child, for the sake of our future. I forgive you." Stella's cry filled the room like a storm breaking. She collapsed against him, clutching his chest, her tears soaking his shirt. Thank you, Daniel." I will never hurt you again. I will honor you. I will honor Mama Grace. I will spend my life proving I am worthy of this mercy. I sat down heavily, my heart bursting with emotion. For the first time in years, I felt peace settling into my chest. I whispered softly, "Thank you, God. Thank you for not letting my tears be in vain." Days turned into weeks. Stella remained in the hospital for observation. Daniel never left her side. He bathed her with gentle words, though the scars of betrayal still lingered in his eyes. I visited daily, bringing food, prayer, and quiet strength. Slowly the cracks began to heal. Stella humbled herself completely. She apologized to me over and over, kneeling before me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Mama Grace, I mocked you. I called you ugly. I threw you away. But you gave me forgiveness when I deserved rejection. Please, let me be your daughter." I lifted her face gently, wiping her tears. "Stella, I was once humiliated because of you, but now I will choose to call you daughter. Let the past die here. Let us walk into a new beginning." She wept in my arms, and for the first time I felt no bitterness, only compassion. Daniel softened too. He still bore scars, but the fire of hatred had died. I often caught him placing his hand on Stella's belly, whispering to the unborn child, "I will protect you. No matter what, I will protect you." Months passed. The pregnancy remained fragile, but Stella fought through with courage. Daniel cared for her like a man reborn, no longer guided by pride, but by love mixed with wisdom. And then, one bright morning, the cries of a newborn filled the hospital room. Stella gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Her skin glowed like honey, her cry strong and fierce. When the nurse placed her in Daniel's arms, tears poured down his face uncontrollably. "My daughter," he whispered, his voice breaking. "My beautiful daughter." He turned to me, his eyes wet with joy. "Mama, here she is. The child who almost tore us apart has now brought us together." I reached out my trembling hands and held the baby close to my chest. Tears flooded my eyes as I kissed her tiny forehead. "Welcome, my granddaughter. You are proof that pain can give birth to joy. You are proof that God never forgets a mother's tears." Stella, weak but smiling, whispered from her bed, "Mama Grace, I promise you, I will never again mock you. I will honor you as my mother, and I will raise this child with humility, love, and respect." I looked at her, then at Daniel, and finally at the innocent child sleeping in my arms. My heart swelled with peace. Then let us bury the past. Let us live as one family. The storms have ended. Let the sunshine remain. Weeks later, Daniel and Stella renewed their vows quietly, not in a grand hall filled with pride, but in a small church filled with humility. This time I stood proudly beside my son as he held his wife's hand. No one mocked me. No one called me ugly. Instead, they called me blessed, the mother who turned pain into forgiveness. When Daniel looked at me during the vows, his eyes overflowed with love. "Mama, thank you for teaching me that forgiveness is stronger than hatred. Thank you for saving my marriage. Thank you for saving me." I smiled, my heart bursting. "My son, you are my crown. May your home never lack joy again." As the sun set that evening, I sat outside with my granddaughter in my arms. The breeze was soft, the sky painted with gold. Daniel and Stella laughed quietly beside me, their hands intertwined, their wounds slowly healing. For the first time in many years, I felt whole. My tears had not been wasted. My humiliation had not been the end. Love had won. Forgiveness had triumphed. And I whispered softly to the sleeping child in my arms, "Your mother once laughed at me. She once said I was too ugly to stand at her wedding, but today she calls me Mama, and you, little one, will grow knowing only love." The baby stirred softly, her tiny lips curling into what looked like a smile, And in that moment I knew the story that began in pain had ended in peace. The end